Welcome back to Special Stage into our live coverage of the 2023 Historic Rally Festival. We are in Stage 3, still in Hatton Grange. This will now be the last of the stages here before we have a bit of a break and a service back at Western Park before those two evening stages under moonlight, spot lamps bolted on at that iconic stately home venue that has featured in so many World Rally Championship events when it formed part of the Lombard RAC Rally. If you didn't join us for the coverage from Stage 2, well, you're in for a treat, and if you did, you'll know just what you've got in store. We've changed our location, we've switched the stage around so the cars are running in the opposite direction, and we're close to the start of this third stage. It's extremely slippery here, as you see. Ian Thomas and Gerald will be, in the Austin Healey 3000 Mark II, the car known in rally history as the Big Healey. Development of the Works 3000 stopped, of course, in 1965 as the Mini Cooper S success story started to gather momentum. The original car was built by Jensen Motors at their bodywork plant before being taken back into Abingdon. And Jensen couldn't fulfill the orders. Dan Gibson in his luff-shelled Clan Crusader just bottoming out on the stage there, coming into view. The Clan that came second on the 72 Manx and won the Tour of Mull in that same year. It also came 5th overall on the Lindisfarne Rally, 2nd overall Rally of the Vales, and won the Derwent Star Rally in the hands of Alan Connolly. The spectacle of seeing these historic cars through these stately home stages and seeing them sideways on what will be a very slippery section of stage now will be a real treat for you. Miles Chamberlain just getting that Mark II Cortina 1600E sideways. Coming through this downhill section of the stage, you can see how thin this road is. It's extremely narrow, and we have got mud and gravel dragged out onto the tarmac by the cars that came through the first running of this stage. You saw Sarwit Sambi through in the P1800S. And there's Bob Beals in the notchback VW, the sort of car that you are far more used to seeing with surfboards on the roof, slammed on air ride at a VW show. But here is a very rare rally version. Paulie Toivonen, father of Harry and Henry Toivonen, came 3rd overall on the 1965 Thousand Lakes Rally that Timo Mäkinen won in the Mini. So, contrary to perhaps popular belief, as notchbacks are fairly iconic when you think about the Toivonen name. In rallying, we just don't see many of them, do we? James Hancock, Jason Taylor in that Mark I Escort Mexico. In his own words, he drives it like it should be driven. It's by no means a garage queen. It gets used. James, 19 years old, driving that Escort on this demonstration event. And don't be fooled by the word demonstration. These cars are being driven properly today, albeit we're not going to see as much sideways on this section of stage as we saw on that hairpin this morning. Wasn't Jason Lepley the king of that hairpin? He took the style points from this morning's first live stage here on Special Stage, didn't he? Using his son James's RS 1800. There's Len Milner, more used to driving a Group B Quattro. This weekend driving that Team Castrol liveried Mark II Escort. And there is Ian Hill with Caroline Hill alongside in the Manta that they do a number of these types of demonstration events in. There's a real vision for the Historic Rally Festival that it will grow in stature and profile and size and will match some of the big rallies in Europe. These demonstration rallies really gaining traction. Excuse the pun, it was very much intended. Warner Lewis and his hard-working rally history team put an awful lot into these events, and they have done a cracking job. It was 10 deep at the spectator area where we were this morning, and the atmosphere down there was fantastic. Tim Ashton there in the Lancia Fulvia Franaloni 1600 HF car that was previously driven by politician racer Baron Beaverbrook. It was also driven the 1999 Tour Auto by Gregor Fisken, the well-known supercar and rally car dealer, racing car dealer indeed, in London. I actually said earlier on that Hugh Chambers, Motorsport UK chief exec, was alongside Tim inside that car. It wasn't actually. Hugh didn't make it to the event. It's actually Anton Bird, the man behind the well-known Agbo rally stages, who's inside that Lancia on today's demonstration event. Tim Ashton's been rallying since 1999. He did his first rally in the Opel Manta 400. What a rally to do for your first event. You just had a feeling Dave Harris and Paul Sanford would kick the back end of that Mark II Escort out on this slippery downhill section of stage, didn't you? He's been out in anger recently at the Abingdon Carnival. Came 9th in class and 28th overall. He is no stranger on gravel or tarmac to a bit of sideways action. Wow, have we got a treat for you with the cars on this year's entry. As you hopefully enjoy the soundtrack of that glorious British V8. Trevor Hancock, James alongside. I mentioned earlier that Trevor's dad was involved in the development and the running of the Works TR7 V8s at Abingdon. And Mike Broad, who will be joining Howard Davies and Louise Aitken-Walker on the commentary team tomorrow, has a few stories of those days, I can tell you. There's Terry Watkins, Jason Pendry in their beautiful Mark I Escort Mexico. Did his first rally in a Escort in 1989. Did the Harry Flatters. Imagine doing Epint as your first rally. Yeah, baptism of fire, isn't it? It's an original Mark I Escort Mexico, that as well. Full historic spec. Nicely done there by Stuart Hicks. Rob Sykes alongside in the Mark II Escort RS 2000. It's a full period built car, but it has a modern Duratec engine under that bonnet. Don't be fooled. It's certainly got as much bite as it has bark. His last rally was in 2015. It was the Brook Wells Showground stages. It was 16th lap. Whoa, and there's a very sideways Gary G with Chris Coville alongside in that TR7 V8. Last rally they did was in far better conditions than these. It was the Gran Canaria Historic Rally in a Lotus Sunbeam. He's done rallies in Czechoslovakia, in Germany, all over the place. That was 2018 when Gary was last in action in Spain. That TR7 V8 was bought from David Appleby Motorsport. There's the name. If you want to be driving a TR7, that's who you want to get to build it. There's a bit of a rumour out there that Chris Ingram will be entering the Roger Albert Clark Rally this year in a Appleby Motorsport TR7 V8. Remains to be seen whether or not that comes true, but it would be certainly interesting, wouldn't it? Don't forget, Chris Meek has been announced this week as driving a Mark II on that event, and we've already got Oliver Solberg announced and on the entry list, along with a whole host of the fastest historic drivers the UK has to offer. It's going to be one heck of an adventure, isn't it, next month? If you just tuned in, welcome to Special Stage. This is our live coverage of the Historic Rally Festival. And do not be fooled if you're tuned in thinking, why on earth am I tuning into a rally demonstration? Well, you've got 80 iconic rally cars, Group B, Group A, Group N, everything in between. And legends like that. Gwyndaf Evans, British rally champion in 1996. in a Mark II Escort, the car that he drove on his second ever rally, but didn't drive again until 2009. So between 1984 and 2009, Gwyndaf drove front-wheel drive and four-wheel drive cars in that era of the sport, taking the British Championship, and here he is joining us at the Historic Rally Festival. But don't be fooled, we have got some fantastic cars on the entry, and as you saw this morning, being driven properly as well. Just stood there this morning, it was a real pinch myself moment. Stig Blomqvist in an A2 Audi Quattro, surrounded by all manner of Group B Audis, Peugeot 205 T16, Ford RS 200, Nigel Mummery, just Group B rally cars coming out of our ears through that first stage of the day. Fantastic it was as well, wasn't it? There's Alad Aynan, Lucy Gutteridge in very bright road rally spec Mark II Escort. It's their first ever event, and that car is absolutely beautiful. Can't miss it either with that bright green paintwork, can you? It's a really good way to showcase the sport, this historic rally festival. It's a really popular format in Europe, and it is growing in popularity here in the UK. Thousands of people lining this stage this morning, waiting to see cars like that. Kevin Knights, Andrews Heat for Hire, Russell Brooks replica Talbot Sunbeam Lotus. He's delighted to have that iconic livery out here on the stages in memory of the late great Russell Brooks. There's Derek Belbin, Charlotte Belbin alongside in the Castrol liveried Mark II RS 1800. Derek did his first rally in 1988. It's the Daihatsu Forest Rally. If you remember that, he was in a 1600 Escort and he came third in class. Not bad, is it, for your first rally? And the last rally he did was the Malcolm Wilson this year, fourth in class in the historics in that RS 1800. Don't go anywhere if you're enjoying this coverage today. We've got those Group B and Group A cars coming through. The force from the anti-lag stood behind those cars on the start line at the first stage this morning was absolutely formidable. Feel it popping and banging against your leg. It was incredible. Sean Crawley there, in the car that Russell Brooks drove at Race Retro in 2015. He was smoking the tyres in that Lotus Sunbeam. John Shepherd alongside him on today's historic rally festival. They did the Goodwood Festival of Speed rally stage in the Proton Persona this year, and that Sunbeam was in action in anger in 2013, 10 years ago, on the Agbo stages, where it came 23rd of the historic cars. We have changed location for this afternoon. You're not going to get sideways round the hairpin, but you are going to see the braver drivers getting sideways into this downhill, narrow, slippery section of stage towards the beginning of this layout for stage 3, which, given that the cars have switched around, would have been the end of the stage earlier on. Nice combination of cars. There's Craig Pendry with Fred Harris in the RS 2000. Di Llewellyn has driven that car. So a Honda S2000 engine under the bonnet of that thing. Had a DNF at the Broady stages earlier this year. Last year came 9th in the class in the Red Dragon IT stages. Just demonstrating nicely the variety of cars we've got on the stage for you today. Arnaud Tortel, Chris Baines in the Mark 1 Fiesta XR2, an unusual car to see out rallying. It was built to full Group A spec for historic rallying in France and did do a few years hard graft in the historic French Tarmac Rally Championship. Did Agbo stages in 2020 and came 5th in class, 35th on the overall leaderboard. Arnold, a French driver who moved over to the UK and brought his rally car with him. And we're delighted he did, because it means it gets to come out and entertain us here on the Hatton Grange stage of the historic Rally Festival. If you're following the action or you're thinking of popping out to watch today, this is the last of the Hatton Grange stages. Stage 4 has been cancelled due to a few timing issues and due to a wedding party which had to enter the stage earlier. Remarkably, Mike Barrett, Megan Barrett there in their works replica of the iconic blue and white works Sunbeam Talbot Lotus. Yeah, apparently the bride wasn't into rallying. Imagine that. When you get married and Stig Blomqvist, 1984 World Rally Champion, blasts past your wedding party in an A2 Quattro, just like the one he won the 1983 RAC Rally on these stages, or at least on the Western Park stage. We'll see later. There's Derek and Nick Wilkins in their Mark 1 Golf GTI. A tribute to the Works Monte Carlo entered car, which looked remarkably like that one. In fact, just at the top of your shot, as the cars come into view, you can just see the wedding in the field. We've got marquees all set up. And that's really cool. But we had to stop while we got the bride in and got the hairdresser into the wedding venue. There's John Partridge and Jim Partridge in 1275 Rover Mini that competed on so many WRC events. Monte Carlo, Sweden, Network Q, RAC. Some Works history under those tyre tracks in that little Mini. And talking of Works history, Alan Watkins and Tim Bloxham have brought that ex-David Sutton Rothmans Escort out to play on this year's historic Rally Festival. Really nice story. That car spent 10 years in a private museum and it's now been completely restored mechanically. And it's in the colours of Malcolm Wilson's 1981 RAC rally car. And Alan is bringing it out to, I say to demonstrate it. He is also using it in anger. He did the Cork 20 International, not in that car though. He did that in an RS 2000 Mark II and came 18th in the Historics earlier this year. Something about a Works rally car through a stately home rally stage, isn't there? In contrast to the conditions we had earlier with bright sunshine this morning, it is raining quite heavily here for the third stage of the day in Hatton Grange, and you can see some of our drivers really having to tiptoe through here because it's downhill, it's narrow, it's a funny old camber as it falls away from you going down the hill, and it is mighty slippery. There's Chris Hetherington, Kevin Robinson in the 205 GTI. Cracking rally cars, so synonymous with our sport. And that one is one of the most reliable of the bunch. It's finished every rally that it's entered, although their first rally together was in 2016, the Hariba Diocese stages, and that must have been in a different 205 GTI because they didn't finish that one. It's ironic, isn't it? Really very impressed by this historic rally festival. Like many of you, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. But it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's far more than just a demonstration event. It is a festival. And it feels like a real celebration of these cars that have made our sport so iconic over the years. There's Nick Robertson, Lucy Robertson. Beautiful little Talbot Samba. Really impressed with that. It's such a nice car up close. It was rescued from a garden shed. It's been 3 years in the making. It's on its second engine rebuild as well. It started as a standard 950cc road car. It's been built to Talbot Samba Group N specification. Got those, are they Campagnolia, those wheels? Someone will correct me, I am sure. Wheels that you're used to seeing on works, Peugeots and Citroens of the time. Like it a lot. It's a beautiful little car. And right up to date in small Peugeot terms, there's the 106 GTI of Brian and Jack Sherritt. Just like the Talbot Samba, the 106 provided a springboard for many up-and-coming drivers in the 90s and early 2000s. The 106 Cup. Remember that? BKW. Well, if it's BKW on the registration plate, then it's a Cup car. With the B gearboxes and the breathed on, shall we say, ECUs. Fantastic little one-make championship, and you do still see the 106 Cup cars out. There's Barry Pavey and Kim Wells-Burr. Barry, we mentioned earlier, is a double amputee. He had a big accident driving a lorry that was carrying Clark's shoes. Somewhat ironically, he told us last night. Not only does he maintain and having built that Mark II Escort himself, he also drives it with no adjustments to the car whatsoever with his prosthetic limbs. Pretty impressive. And a great story as well. He's a real character. There's Russ and Wendy Mason in their Mark II. That's featured on Special Stage a few times over the years, hasn't it? Did their first rally together before they got married in 1998, the Quinton stages. They were 68th on the overall leaderboard, 11th in class. Wendy was still Wendy Winkles back then, and it clearly went well because they ended up getting married. I'm not sure that my wife and I would have lasted very long if we'd have done a rally together. I know my mum and dad used to rally together before I was born, and so the story goes. Dad used to double check that mum really meant left when she said left, and it didn't go down too well in the car. There's Elliot Sharp. I'll move on pretty swiftly, I don't know, before I get myself in bother. There's Elliot Sharp, Leon Carfrey in the MGZR. So we have got Group B, Group A, iconic rally cars out, ex-works rally cars, and then we're bringing a real demonstration of all eras and categories and disciplines of rally cars. And MGZRs have done the business, haven't they, in various trims. Group N, Group A, Super 1600, you name it, and they're still out there as well. Very popular rally cars now. Our Pro Tyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally champion Callum Black started off in an MGZR. There's Mark Butler and Paul Hode in the Mark II RS 2000. It's a Welsh road rally car. Went out to Ireland and it came back in recent years. Did his first rally in a 205 GTI himself, actually. In 1993, did the Biowell Retail Park Clubman's Rally. He was 10th overall, 4th in class. I mean, I'm guessing it wasn't a particularly lively entry list. If that was his first rally, he managed 10th overall and 4th in class, but it's still a pretty good opening score, isn't it? Last rally was last year. It was the Carl Sorensen Memorial Rally. And the Mark II RS 2000 that you see there didn't get to the end, though. If you just tuned in, welcome to Special Stage. This is the historic Rally Festival, and we have got an entry list bursting with British champions, world champions, and the cars that make them famous over the years. It's David Matthewson from the Bangers and Cash programme. Jack Matthewson alongside in the Astra GSI. It's a proper car, that, as well. And, competed on the Lombard RAC Rally. Don't think in the era that will have done it, it will have done the Western Park stage, but one man who has done the Western Park stage on the RAC is the 84 World Rally Champion Stig Blomqvist, who is reunited with the A2 Group B Audi Quattro that John Hanlon and the Hansport team have lovingly, and we'll come to that later, I'll tell you some nice stories about that build, lovingly built and restored, ready for this event. Andy Bounds, Adam Dognini with their Lancia Fulvia 1600 HF, full Group 4 spec car, which has been in the family since 1974. So they've owned it from new, and Dad, Andy Bounds' dad, turned that into a rally car during its time. It's done some big rallies as well. Twice it's done the Circuit of Ireland, it's done the Mank Historic, competed in the Demon Tweaks Historic Challenge. It's done the Mintex Historic Challenge. Rally Legends in Italy, Transmira in Spain, and five of those. Popular version of the rally demonstrations that we've talked about quite a lot today, because that is the model that Warner Lewis and his team are going for. There's Andrew Waldridge, Paul Davey in the Hyundai Formula 2 Coupe. Paul, you will remember from our coverage, normally drives the Subaru. Here he is co-driving for Andy Waldridge in that really cool F2 car. It was actually a proper works recce car. It was used on the World Rally Championship a couple of times, including in Australia, driven by Alistair McRae when he was driving the works Formula 2 Hyundai Coupes. He's driven it in anger as well. 2013 was the first time. It was the Red Dragon IT stages. Came 35th overall, 17th in class. Last time he was out was the Get It Sideways stages in 2017, I think. 36th overall it was. 12th in class. Just listen to that thing. Doesn't that sound good? He's always got his arm out of the window. He's enjoying himself. Darren Martin, Daniel Hurst alongside in that ex-Francois Delacour Corsica two-wheel drive Group A Sierra Sapphire Cosworth. The side exit on that exhaust on that car was breathing fire earlier on when we stood and watched that off the line in the first stage of the day. Bonkers to see these Group A cars spitting flames. Thank you very much, sir. As if our hard-working marshals here in the UK and on this historic rally festival didn't already have enough to do. One of them's brought me a stool to sit on, much appreciated. I'll tell you what, the tours don't always have the best of luck in that Corsa Super 1600, do they, in that kit car, but they've gone well today. They've enjoyed themselves, and actually, correcting myself, they've had a couple of good results recently. You'll have seen them on our coverage a fair bit. They were last out on the Jim Clark earlier this year. They were third in class, and on the Rivas they were fourth, actually. The British Rally Marshals Association is out here in force as well, recruiting marshals in the spectator area, where we have the merchandise stalls and the food stalls in this Hatton Grange stage. And their big headline is, you can get closer to the stages by going marshalling. And so you should, if you do fancy getting out marshalling, then contact your local motor club and have a look at what they're organising. Or go straight to Motorsport UK and have a look at the website where you can find all of the training and all the information about how you get involved. Doesn't that sound good? Popping and banging of a Group A anti-lag system through the trees in a stately home stage. It's a McRae replica car, and there's definitely shades of McRae there, isn't there? Phil Owen, Lucy Owen, alongside in their Subaru Impreza STI. Phil's first rally was the Rothmans National Rally in a Mini. In 1980, he came second in class. Last rally that he did competitively was also in 1980. It was the Mueller in a 1275 GT Mini Clubman. Came 13th in class on that one. Formidable rallies to have been doing in the 80s when you were new to the sport. These days, there's a lot of these events in that Subaru. That's an interesting car. It's a XR 4x4. The V6 engine Sierra. It's got a side exit exhaust. It's a recreation of the car, and I'm told it's quite a faithful one as well, driven by Colin McRae on the 1989 Swedish Rally. Before, of course, Colin famously then jumped into the Cosworth version of the Sierra, and we all know what happened in that story after then. And in fact, carrying the story on quite nicely there is Graham Brindley with David Evans in the Sierra Cosworth. In 1987, Juha Kankkunen was World Rally Champion. The Ford drivers across the season included Stig Blomqvist, who you'll see today, Kalle Grundle, Didier Auriol, Carlos Sainz, Harry Vatten and Jimmy McRae, Mark Lovell, George Donaldson, the list goes on. The Sierra Cosworth was the maker of legends and heroes, and still today, when you see one out, it's just one of those cars that you can't resist taking a picture of. And there's a car which equally iconic in the Ford stable, the Escort Cosworth, and that's a pretty famous one as well. It's the ex-Johnny Milner, who of course was the two-time British champion. Escort Cosworth still in its Shell Helix colours. Did many rallies, that car, including Network Q, RAC, Nigel Hepburn and Alan Wilson, bringing that Escort Cosworth out to play this weekend on the historic Rally Festival. And let me tell you, you're going to love seeing that in night stage trim this evening when we return to Weston Park. We've got an absolutely cracking look at that last night with the two Escort Cosworths, spot lamps, bumper pods bolted on. We're going to see that later on with live coverage from Weston Park for one of those two night stages. Are we going to do in one or two night stages tonight, Producer Wayne? Two night stages. Excellent. So we've got plenty of action for you throughout the day and into tomorrow as well. 6 more stages here at the historic Rally Festival, based around Weston Park, that famous Lombard RAC rally stage. We've got a stoppage in the stage here. We mentioned the bridal party earlier. So we've got a stoppage while the bridal party comes through the stage, I think. Imagine driving through a rally stage on your wedding. That would have been brilliant. I actually had Petter Solberg's World Rally Car at my wedding. There was no rally stage there, though, in Ravenscar near Whitby. What was that, Producer Wayne?
They'll probably come in the other end.
Oh, so we're not going to see the bride through the stage. That will be a first here on Special Stage, wouldn't it? Here comes the bride in a Metro 6R4. Imagine that. I did think it was an opportunity missed when I heard that there was a wedding party and the family had been keen to ensure that they could have access to the stage. I'd have been keen to ensure that Stig Blomqvist got my wife to the church, to be honest. But there we go. Hello to you if you're watching from home, and if you're watching stage side or perhaps at Weston Park, where you're getting ready for this evening's, should we call it a party? It's very much a rally party, isn't it? It certainly feels that way anyway. We've got aerobatic displays, we've got a fantastic and wide-ranging rally car display down there, including the Rapid Fit Formula 2 Escort Maxi, driven by Gwyndaf Evans and Howard Davies. And Gwyndaf and Howard are going to be down there later with that car. Shame it's not in action, but watch this space. And, oh man, there were some things that Warner Lewis, who is the man in charge here at the Historic Rally Festival, was telling me last night about his plans and his wants and some of the things that are coming out to play in future versions of this event that would send shivers down your spine if you only knew what was planned as we build this rally and build this concept here in the UK that's so popular in Europe. Warner's got some big plans. If you think that having, how many, we've got 14 Group B cars, have we, on this event? He's talking about at least double that. And Warner and his team know where pretty much all the Works Group B cars are. So in future years, you can expect the full range. I mean, that would be good, wouldn't it? If you could get all of the Group B cars out on this event in future years, including things like the Citroen BX, the kind of the mythical machines from the Group B era. Still to come, you're going to enjoy action from some of the most famous and iconic Group B rally cars, and you will get treated to the spectacle of the 1984 World Rally champion Stig Blomqvist, reunited with an A2 Audi Quattro, the car that he famously won the 1983 RAC Rally in. Just amazing, to be honest, to see him back in that car. What do you think of when you think of Audi A2 Quattros? You know what the first thing that comes to mind for me is? The videos of the 83 Safari with Hannu Mikkola in the white Audi Sport headband. Remember that? I don't, but I've seen it on plenty of videos. Nice to see the Stratos back out, because earlier on didn't exactly go to plan. I told you, it's not just a demonstration event. These cars are being driven in anger. John Rutter and Lorraine Nixon put that Stratos off on one of the first corners of the first stage of the day, but such is the nature of this event. Not competitive. Means you can get straight back out as soon as the car's had a quick check over. There's Ellis Mendelssohn, Chris Kirkham in the Martini Racing liveried Lancia Delta Integrale. A car which has been a rally car for most of its life. It's done the Rally Costa Brava, Trasmiera, Rally Legend, and it's done the historic Rally Festival in previous years as well. The only competitive event that it did was the Rally Legend in 2019. It's sort of half competitive, half demo, isn't it, that event? And big popular event in Europe, and he was 20th overall, 5th in class in that Delta. So no stranger to pedaling it hard. It just reminds me of the Tamiya 1/10 scale radio control cars. I had one of those. Wouldn't be a rally demonstration without a few Mark IIs in there for good measure, would it? There's David Turner, James Turner alongside. It's got the naturally aspirated Cosworth YB engine in there. Apart from that, it's all Group 4 spec, but it's got a Quaife 6-speed sequential gearbox as well, so not exactly as the Ford gods intended, but you know what? Naturally aspirated Cosworth with a 6-speed sequential? Yes, please. Robert Jones and Nick Archer back out in their Mark II Golf GTI. It's a replica of the car driven by Kenneth Eriksson in the WRC. You may remember that. It's been painstakingly recreated using really detailed photos of the car competing all over the world. First time they've actually used the car, and it's nice that they're back out because it was misfiring earlier on through the second stage that we filmed for you live. Robert's been rallying since the mid-90s, did the Tour of Mull as his first rally in 1995 in a VW Golf. 62nd overall as well. That's not a result to be sniffed at for your first event, is it? Last time he was out, he was in a Fiesta Mark 6 on the North Humberside Motor Club Cadwell Park stages last year. He was 3rd in class. That Winfield Evo 3 is just so loud. Popping and banging its way through these stages. I say, we were still on the start line earlier, and it was almost blowing our trousers off. It was that loud. And the force from that anti-lag system, you can just hear it popping and banging its way through the trees. Lee Kedward, Mark Newman alongside. Built to International Group N spec by ex-Rally Art mechanics for John Perrott. It's now been rebuilt to Group A spec. As you can hear, the anti-lag turned up to the max. There's Graham Capper, Chris White continuing the 90s theme now. That's the Celica GT4. Sorry, it's not. It was originally 80s, 1987, but it wasn't rallied until 1991, that particular car. There's the man who got maximum style points this morning. Jason Lepley with Susanna Lepley alongside in that Mark II Escort RS 1800 that was driven last weekend on Track Rod Rally Yorkshire by Jason's son James. Kindly let his dad come out and have a play on this historic rally festival, and it's still wearing its Track Rod Rally mud. Jason told me he left on that on there for effect, but he was keen to point out that the underneath of the car has been cleaned. It has been re-prepped and spanner checked ahead of this historic rally festival. We believe you, Jason. Not quite sideways through here, but we will let you off. He was still going some, wasn't he? It's very narrow, very slippery. It's been raining for about 20 minutes before the car started this third stage of the day. So quite a formidable bit of stage, this downhill under the trees with plenty of things to catch you out. So this being a demonstration event, nobody wants to be rearranging rear quarters using the trees lining this stage. There's Bob Dennis and Caroline Chapman in their Subaru Legacy, full Group A spec, built by Bob himself. And not only does it do demonstration events like this historic rally festival, he also did the opening round of the Pro Tyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship. And as I'm talking, a little newt has just climbed over my foot. Producer Wayne didn't believe me until I pointed it out. At one with nature here on special stage. We're in Hatton Grange. It's the new stage that's been opened up for this year's Historic Rally Festival, and I am told we can look forward to some surprises ahead of next year's event as well. Dare I say closed roads? Anybody? Definitely one to watch. Sparks coming off the front brakes of that WRC Safari spec Proton that won the 2002 Production World Rally Championship. Also won the Asia Pacific Championship in 2002. It's 100% original, that car. Still runs the spec, and you can see it's got the Safari snorkel going over the bonnet. John Lay, Gareth Lay alongside. His first rally was in 1988. It was the Automech Panda stages at Three Sisters. He was in an Escort RS 2000 and came 7th in class, 20th overall. Not bad for your first event, is it? Used to rally a Metro 6R4, if you remember that. Did the Woodpecker, the Plains, and the Astra stages in the early 2000s. Sort of 2000 on in that 6R4. Now he's out in that World Rally Championship winning Proton. Remember that when Proton came out and basically rebadged the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 6s. And then they called the Mitsubishi Lancer the Charisma, didn't they, as well? Did like that kind of marketing exercise that went on in particularly 90s rallying. Robert Whitehouse, Yvonne Mehta in the 8-valve Lancia Integrale. Full Group A spec with a long history of rallying in Finland, that yellow Delta. And there's a man who's been rallying since the year Stig Blomqvist won the World Rally Championship 1984 when he did the Avon Midsummer Stages in a Mark 1 Escort 1600. That is Steve Harkness. Andrew Stokes in with him in that Millington engined 2.5 litre BMW M3. Superior replica of the M3 used by Mark Duers.
The groom was leaving the first car, that's the bride leaving now.
We've got another break in the action while the bride leaves the wedding party now. The groom was the first delay, and now we've got the bride. There's something new for us on special stage, a gap in the action to allow the bride and groom to get to the rally venue, the wedding venue, and they are getting married. You can see on your screen the tents in the field there. I don't know if producer Wayne can just zoom in, maybe get some live wedding action here on special stage. Here comes the bride in a Group B Metro, if only. But yeah, imagine getting married on a rally stage and actually not being into rallying. Going back to that M3, Mark Duez was the driver of that Belga Metro 6R4. Do you remember that? That was one heck of a colour scheme, wasn't it? Steve has used that car recently on Spanish WRC round in Catalonia. He's done the Rallycross Festival in France as well. Drives it with the slowly sideways demonstration events. If you just tuned in to special stage, we've just got a break in the action while we allow a bride to get to the wedding venue. Something new for us. she's not being driven in a Group B rally car. You'll be as disappointed as I am to find out. But we'll get the rally cars back on the stage in just a couple of minutes. We've got someone who will be very spectacular through here. I am absolutely sure. I actually did a test with this man in a... Now, what car was that in? That'll have been in a 99 McRae Impreza at Blyton in 2012 when I was testing the Graham Coffey car ahead of doing the Alton Park round of the Motorsport News Circuit Rally Championship before that car then became my wedding car. Steve Chamberlain is the driver I'm talking about. He's got Tom Hutchings, who was my co-driver and indeed my best man, talking of weddings, in with him. 2019 Circuit Rally Championship winning co-driver, and a man who has done events in various cars and events, and they're in a glorious works spec Group A Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 6, and they were very sideways earlier. Talking about all these drivers who had successful first rallies, Steve didn't quite have the success he would have wanted for his first rally. It was the 1994 Opposite Lock Rally, which will have been at Manby in Lincolnshire near Cadwell Park, and well, he rolled his Vauxhall Nova on his first ever rally. He's a bit of a nutter, and he won't mind me telling you that. He's done demos for the last few years, going out really driving these cars properly as well. He had a Hyundai Accent World Rally car, the ex-Kankinen car, and wow, was that thing restored beautifully. Every nut and bolt fastidiously taken apart, painted, checked over, and then sourced to make sure that it was completely to original spec. John Cudmore, who run the cars and built the cars for Hyundai back in the day, and is currently Petter Solberg's rally mechanic. He had a hand in rebuilding that Hyundai WRC, and it was right 100% original and beautifully prepared. It was always good to see Steve out in that, and he's been out in a Focus, WRC, and this Evo recently. Last competitive event though was 2014 in Twyford Wood, and he crashed on that as well. So that's still to come here at the Historic Rally Festival, an event which is into its third year and has a fantastic entry. 80 historic Group A, Group B, Group N and WRC spec rally cars back at Weston Park. Back on the narrow, twisty, in Louise Aitken Walker's words, Mickey Mouse roads of the stately home stages. It's interesting, I was sat at dinner last night with Stig and Louise, and they were discussing these types of stages, and I talked to Stig about the 83 event where he went into the stage battling with his Audi teammate Michelle Mouton, and he said she was a formidable competitor. And he was saying that these stages were, and Louise said it as well, you know, as a driver, you hated them. They weren't long enough to get your teeth into. Your concentration wasn't really at its best because they were usually at the end of the day or perhaps right at the start of the day before you had a long road section somewhere else. And, you know, drivers just didn't like doing these stately homes and these super spectator specials. But from a spectator's point of view, it inspired so many of us, didn't it, bringing cars out to these types of venues. And it's just interesting that it can be such a different experience inside the car compared to outside the car, because you can just reel off, can't you? If you're a big rally enthusiast and you were around watching rallying through the 80s and the 90s, you can reel off the big championship deciding, in some cases, moments on these stately home stages. You'll remember the famous helmet through the window, Lewis Moyer, Carlos Sainz moment in Margam Park. You'll remember Clumber Park, Robbie Head, Gwyneth Evans, and you'll remember water splashes with bits of grills flying through the air. We'll have that water splash for you later. We're doing the water splash, aren't we, Wayne? So tomorrow we'll have the water splash for you, and I'm getting in a car tomorrow, which is exciting. So I've squeezed back into my race suit. It still fits just, and I'm going to be inside that Autoplas 6R4 with Dan Elmore. Looking forward to that. We won't be doing that live on Special Stage tomorrow as part of the coverage, but we will be filming a bit of a feature which we'll put in the TV show, which will go out in a few weeks' time. It will also be in the Seacon UK Rally Show, which you'll be able to watch the next episode of next Friday. That won't feature the Historic Rally Festival, though. It will be the one-off. It will be the November edition of the show featuring that. So on Friday we'll have action from Wayne. It's an MRF BTRDA rally takeover, isn't it? It's Woodpecker and Track Rod in next Friday's show. Anything else? 3 Shires thrown in there for good measure as well. We'll have 3 Shires, won't we? It's been a busy month, hasn't it? Rally Yorkshire, Woodpecker, 3 Shires, Ceredigion. Will Ceredigion be in Friday's? That was in the last one, wasn't it? Just we've had that many events in recent weeks that I'm just having to remind myself where we are. I've got a new car 2 months ago and I've already done 5,000 miles courtesy of these events. So we have got a break in the action while the bride clearly takes her time getting to the wedding venue that you can see on your screen there. The wedding venue right in the middle of the special stage here at Hatton Grange. Yep, it's a new one for us as well. And the saddest part of all of that is that she's not a rally fan. It's wasted on her. I mean, I'd have paid a premium to have Stig Blomqvist drive sideways past my wedding venue. I suspect many of you will be the same. Don't forget, by the way, you can click the handy link at the bottom of the screen to be notified whenever we go live, which means you won't miss those 2 atmospheric night stages this evening at Weston Park. And you won't miss the action tomorrow when we bring you action from the Water Splash. And we'll have Louise Aitken-Walker joining us once again. If you enjoyed our Jim Clark coverage earlier this year with Louise, then you'll love having Louise back with us, tuned in. Tomorrow, we might even get Howard Davies on and Mike Broad as well, who are joining the commentary team at tomorrow's stages. Mike Broad is my favourite rally storyteller. Just some fantastic stories he has to tell, including the one that I told earlier, actually, which I don't mind telling you again, which is in the RAC rally in 1978. Mike was due to be doing the event in a Lotus Sunbeam. Then he basically lost his seat, but he was still under contract. However, he went to Triumph. So there he was in the build-up to the event, putting the service schedules together and getting ready at Abingdon. And he got a call from Chrysler to say, no, we need you back to do the service schedules for us. So it won't surprise you to know that the Lotus Sunbeams and the Triumph TR7 V8s were suspiciously, mysteriously servicing in exactly the same remote locations on the 78 RAC. And that is why... Listen to that. It's not just the big Tommy on the bonnet that reminds you of Tommy Mackinnon, is it, when that car comes through? It is the popping and the banging from that 90s, early 2000s anti-lag system that we loved so much about those Works Evo 6s. That was one of 3 special development cars that Hockley Motorsport built using full Group A suspension and active diffs, just like the Works cars. Had a full mechanical and exterior overhaul recently, that car. And Steve Chamberlain, with Tom Hutchins alongside, does like coming out and using it on these demonstration runs. John Peck and Jonathan Barrett do mostly demos, but he did do the Challenger stages last year, and he got a top 10 finish as well in an Evo 5 Lancer at Bovington this year. But that is the Mike Taylor Developments Escort Cosworth with its glorious Bastos livery. It's the original car And it looks and sounds as well as it goes, doesn't it? How great to see these iconic cars out on stately home stages once again. Congratulations to Warner Lewis and his team for putting on a real bit of rally theatre for us this weekend with the historic Rally Festival, an event which is roughly 2 or 3 years into a very succinct 5-year vision, which will see this format of rally demonstration events growing in popularity here in the UK, just like it has done in Europe. And there's the man behind it, Warner Lewis himself, Anthony Hitchings alongside in their Toyota Celica GT4, using original parts fitted to a well-known shell, driven by Jari-Matti Latvala and Markku Alen in Warner Lewis's ownership. It's running in historic spec, but it has a few modern upgrades just to make it a little easier to run on these types of events and a little bit easier to maintain as well. Warner did the Agbo stages this year in the Celica. Came 23rd overall, 4th in class. Not bad going. Now he finds time to do that and put this historic rally festival together. But the hard work that goes on behind the scenes at this event is, well, it's quite mind-blowing and humbling, if I'm honest. There's Neil Brighton. He's gone off in the Renault 5 Maxi Turbo. Group B Renault just sliding off on the mud. I think something broke on the car, causing it to veer off the road, but crew were okay. The car hadn't hit anything, it's just gone down the bank. Looks like it's stuck in the mud. Neil and Peter Fidalgo just climb out of the car, having a wander around to check what broke on it to cause it to veer off like that into the scenery. Lucky there was somewhere for them to go, because there are other parts of this stage where we are now where that just simply wouldn't have been the case. Richard Barrow, Courtney Barrow alongside in the N14 Impreza there, one of the Teg Sport built cars. Proper Pro Drive shell, built to Group N rally spec. The Renault 5 Maxi Turbo you can just see on your screen there is well and truly beached off the stage and not going any further for now. There's the first of our Group B Audi Quattros through there, and it's a full Group 4 spec 1981 car, a tribute to the 81 Lombard RAC car of Hannu Mikkola and Arnie Hartz. Runs the original Group 4 spec 5-cylinder 10-valve engine with its 300 plus brake horsepower. The suspension and the rest of the car built to original spec, painstakingly so, and used on events here and in Europe. Earlier this year they did the Alsace Rally Festival. 2019 it did the Eiffel Rally. All demo events, which is a bit of an occupational hazard when you drive an outlawed Group B car, hey. There's Mick Coville with Howie Fowler alongside. We didn't see that car through the second stage earlier, did we? We saw it through the first stage, though, or I did. And that is a great-looking car, very unusual as well. Built mainly for sprints and hill climbs in Europe. The Fiat Ritmo was the Fiat Strada here in the UK. Runs a 3-litre Alfa Romeo V6 engine. And it looks the part, doesn't it, in its Alitalia livery. Mike Smith, Dave Ainsham in the Mitsubishi Evo 7. Proper 2001 Rally Art car. And that's the type of car it was built to fight against. Graham Sturrock's N10 Subaru Impreza Group N rally car. It's taken part in various rallies around the world, including in Finland and Barbados, that car. Graham did his first rally in 1990 on the Woodpecker stages in a 1600 Escort. He was 25th in class. Pretty much done demos only since then, having got back into the swing of things 3 years ago. Did race retro this year and enjoyed himself in that Subaru. Mick Stratford and Ian Houston were absolutely smoking their tyres in that Chevrolet Vauxhall Forenza, the Can-Am car, which has been used extensively on rallies here and in Europe by not only Mick, but also Jimmy McRae and Stig Blomqvist as well. First rally was the 1997 Tour of Cornwall in the Chevette HSR, and he was 16th in class. Imagine doing your first rally in a Chevette HSR. Did the Rainwood Skoda Donington Park rally last year and came 10th in class. And there's a man who, when I first got him to come to Cadwell Park to do a demonstration run for me there as part of one of our rally events, said to me, I don't think I'll ever do an actual rally in this car. I don't like getting it dirty. And now he does proper rallies. He did the Colin Elmore stages last year in the name of his dad, who was one of his big inspirations. That is Dan Elmore. Ian Duncan alongside in the Autoplas MG Metro 6R4. First used in 1987 by Steve Harris, both on UK rallies and at the Birmingham Super Prix. His last competitive outing was last year, as I say, the Colin Elmore Memorial Rally, and included in the roster of quite distinguished names to have driven that car are Richard Burns, European Rallycross champion Will Gollop, Harry Toivonen, Craig Breen, and the Stig, when it featured in Top Gear in the Dad's Cars episode. It was also in the Car SOS Metro 6R4 episode as well. So a very well-known Metro 6R4. And there is Simon Powell with Yvonne Powell alongside, probably turning the air blue inside that Opel Manta 400, showing us just how slippery this stage is under the braking. But somehow getting away with it. That car was originally built in the late 80s by Jerry Johnson, who was the ex-dealer Team Vauxhall team manager. You may know that. There's Don Booth, Carl Booth alongside. It's an original UR Quattro converted to Group B spec. It's been actively used in competition in the UK and in Jersey. It's a full A2 period spec replica. Dom did the 2016 Tour of Mull in the Peugeot 106 GTI. You may remember we had an almighty crash in that Peugeot, going end over end. There's Robin Hamilton, Vanessa Hamilton alongside. It was an original works car, that Metro 6R4. It was rallied by Tony Teasdale in New Zealand, and it did the RAC rally here in 1986. And that is some car, isn't it? It was top 10 historic on the Scottish Rally, the Crail Summer Stages, and the Kames Trophy Rally this year. We should be seeing 1984 World Rally champion Stig Blomqvist through the stage now, and here he is in that Group B A2 Audi Quattro that Hansport, John Hanlon, who is sat in with Stig, his team have built from the ground up in order for Stig to compete on this event, or take part, I should say. It was meant to be out to do a test at Chelsea Walsh, and it wasn't quite ready, and John described to me yesterday what a heartbreaking moment that was for the whole team. Stig was devastated not to be out in the car, so you can imagine how delighted they all are. I was talking to Jack Johnston last night at dinner, to Dave as well, and James in that team, who are so passionate about that car and all the cars that they build. But to put a world champion back in the car that took him to victory on the 83 Lombard RAC Rally is quite a special thing to be doing, isn't it? Certainly gets you up in the morning, I should imagine. Nigel Mummery there, Robbie Sanford alongside in the Ford RS200, Ford's Group B entry. In 2023, Nigel has driven that RS200, a Porsche RGT car, which he had a bit of a bad accident on the Three Shires with, I've got to say, and an 05 Focus World Rally car. It's not a bad roster of cars to be driving in 1 year, is it? There's David Bonning, Alex Young in the replica of the Carlos Sainz Escort World Rally car. Remembering, of course, that in '96, when the Toyotas were banned for that infringement on the turbo restrictors. Remember the famous flap? Yep, that one. Carlos was without a drive and found himself at Ford during the Repsol days, and that became quite an iconic period in his career. That is David Turner and James Turner just going through the stage in their naturally aspirated Cosworth Escort. And that is just a glorious sight to behold, isn't it? Adam Marsden, Gary Johnston in that A1 Group B Audi Quattro, the first of the Group B cars that ended up in a class up. So they had the 1.5 multiplier, or 1.4 multiplier, wasn't it, due to the engine displacement. It meant that it was in the over 3 litre class, and it was too heavy. As a result, they couldn't put lightweight panels on it. That's where the A2 came from. The A standing for aluminium, because it was a special aluminium version of the famous 5-cylinder engine, shaved 44 pounds off the weight of the car. And just look at that. Dave Kedwood, Tony Hart in the Peugeot 205 T16, original Peugeot Talbot Sport Ireland car, converted to Evo 2 spec later in its life. He's done demos in the 037, the E2 Quattro, the one with the big wings, and he did the 1994 Network Q RAC Rally in an Escort Cosworth. There was no Western Park by those days. Aha, there's a man I was hoping would come over and talk to me. As you see Andy Crinks and Dave Nicholson through. Neil Brighton, we are looking very sadly at your Renault 5 Turbo off the stage. What happened to the steering brake?
We broke the upper wishbone. We hit the speed bump on the way in, of going very fast. There was an almighty bang, and the car started pulling to one side, clearly wanting to go to the left, and it made the corner because the corner was left. And then we came down along here, and I thought, oh, maybe we were just on something slippy and it hasn't broken. And then I thought, get it ready. I put the brake on, and as soon as I touched the brake, and the front wheel just locked and tucked in and pulled you straight off the road.
Nice and neat the way you just sort of plumped it into the undergrowth there, though. As you see Adam Crowson and Perry Chatwin through in their Astra GSI proper Network Q RAC Rally Survivor, that car from 1993. And then Stuart McLaren, who, by the way, if you do want to do the Roger Albert Clark Rally, here's your chance. Stuart's co-driver has pulled out for this year's event in that cadet, so he needs a bit of a contribution towards the entry fee, but then you've got